YouTube, welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to my March 2022 channel update. Woohoo! Let's get to it. So in March we have, for the first time in 70 years, a land war in Europe between the Ukraine and Russia. If Russia invade Poland, things could get very messy indeed, but we're not going to go down that route at the moment. There are links in the description of this video all about the Ukraine-Russia conflict and the economic sanctions that Ukraine's allies are putting together for that. So that is happening. Our lives post-pandemic are never going to go back to what they were pre-pandemic. We are in a different life cycle now, and that's just the way it is. Obviously, we still got to make sure we wash our hands, we still got to put face masks on in enclosed spaces and on public transport, because that's sensible, and keeping distance from people we don't live with is generally advised, but it's only guidelines, there's no legal compulsion. And there's the whole mess of lateral flow tests and track and traces obviously being scaled down to be removed, but the WHO haven't said the pandemic is over. So those are the two major things: land war in Europe and in the middle of a pandemic that's being wound down. But what I want to talk about is actually Netflix documentaries. I've watched the documentary about Bikram, also known as hot yoga now, due to the sexual scandal that happened surrounding Bikram, and he's actually fled the USA because of it. But he's still doing his teacher training courses in Europe and so forth. So that was interesting. So many scammers. We've had the Tinder swindler. We've had Anna Delvey, it's just been one after the other. And also I watched Netflix Fire, which featured big scammer that Billy is and was, both with his little credit card thing for millennials before that, and then the whole Fire Festival, which just ended in complete disaster. Yeah, it's just been one thing after another. And what's interesting about all these programs is these programs actually sort of all are about events from 2015 up until 2020, which is really interesting. So it's almost like we are wanting to look at how life was before COVID to remind ourselves of that, because Anna Delvey got sentenced before COVID, thing with the Tinder swindler before COVID, Bikram before COVID. Fascinating stuff, absolutely fascinating. Also, I watched this one with Piers Morgan on psychopaths, but I didn't find it very balanced. But the situation was horrific, but I didn't find it balanced. But then again, I never really find Piers Morgan balanced. I'm really enjoying watching documentaries at the moment because there are so many of them out there, and actually there's been quite a lot of events that kind of need a documentary to sort of explain them. There's almost like we're drowning in news, except we're not drowning in news because they're not reporting like they used to. It's either they were so focused on COVID, or at the moment they're so focused on the Ukraine that all the other big stories that are happening are kind of getting pushed down to the barrel. They aren't having, you know, like their 5 main stories like Ukraine, COVID, and then 3 other stories to back it up. It's like Ukraine, COVID, flying budgie that can water ski. And you're just like, what? Yeah, so that's interesting, and I think in March that, oh yeah, just to let you know, March, birthday month, woo, very excited me. But I think going forward that documentaries, particularly on Netflix and other streaming services like Amazon Prime, BBC, because that's a streaming service now for the iPlayer, ITV Hub, BritBox, all of these, Hulu, any one that I haven't mentioned, please insert its name. I think that going forward that these streaming services are going to provide far more interesting documentaries, purely because I think some channels like the BBC possibly can't look into certain things. Not to say that they aren't, because they've got the excellent panorama, but there are certain things that they need enough evidence before going and making a documentary. In any documentary you need that, but there's only so far you can go with the BBC budget. So I think that things like Netflix will have more interesting documentaries, and documentaries that aren't necessarily about UK based things either. I did watch on Amazon Prime the documentary about the fall of the Chippendales. Oh my goodness, that was so interesting, and in fact that's got similarities with the whole Bikram hot yoga thing, even though there wasn't any sort of like sex scandals. It was more to do with like people being shot. That was just like shocking. Anyway, fascinating how people's stories within our lives all outside of our lives. There's just so many human stories going on, and it would be impossible to understand it all because the world is so big. Anyway, that is my March channel update. I've been watching documentaries, but then again I did have COVID in February, so what can you do? Watch Netflix documentaries about scammers. That just seems to be our lives now. Beware of scams, beware of scams. It's just ongoing. Anyway, hope you're staying safe wherever you are. Please, I hope you enjoyed my March 2022 channel update. Please like, comment and subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell for my latest videos. Bye, and stay safe wherever you are.